right. Okay. So why Drupal is a shark? So a bit about myself quickly, as I said, CTO, co-founder of Dropsolid. I have a background in software engineering, been a Drupal developer for many, many years. Part of the Drupal community for more than 15 years now. And also, yeah, active in the more business community, building a SaaS PaaS platform with Dropsolid. All right, let's get going. So why is Drupal a shark and not a dinosaur? So why did I choose this image? So maybe, as you know, the shark is a creature that exists already for almost 400 million years. So that's a very long time. The dinosaurs, however, 60 million years ago, they died out. Why did they die out? Because they were not capable of adapting to changing circumstances. The shark, however, they did adapt. And the case that I'm trying to make here is that Drupal is a shark and is adapting. So what kind of trends did Drupal already survive as a technology if it's been more than 22 years? It survived the start of the internet, the browser wars, then the social media, the rise of the social media, then the mobile revolution. And then if we move on, we get all the different devices coming in. There's then around 2017, 16, 17, we get the headless trend is moving in. And each time Drupal is seeming to survive this. This only goes to 2020, but now 2023, get the whole AI revolution. We'll see how Drupal and CMSs will do in that environment. But anyway, I think Drupal is perfectly adapted to stay the top open enterprise content management system. And why is that? First signs of this is a slide from last DrupalCon in Prague, which was last year. I think it was October, November. The business ecosystem around Drupal is actually thriving. So 2/3 of the ecosystem reported that their project pipeline is growing. Almost a quarter, no change, and then a small piece weakened. So that's the lesser part of the pie. We see the same at Dropsolid. So although we only sell Drupal, so we can't really be sure of other pipelines that are growing because we only have Drupal in our pipeline. However, there's like a contradiction, because if you look at the Drupal install base, it's actually declining. So that's pretty weird. At first, you might think like, oh no, Drupal is declining. Even if you look at the Drupal 8 plus installations, they are growing, but the Drupal 7 installations are declining. And actually, they're declining faster than they are coming new Drupal 8 installations. But there's another trend playing here. And that means that the projects that are being built on Drupal are actually getting a lot bigger, because what are customers are doing is they are building digital experience platforms with Drupal. And to quickly explain what is the difference between a CMS and a DXP, to be a DXP, it's just broader. While you have with CMS, it's content management systems, a DXP is a digital experience platform. The difference is that the content management system is all about content, and a DXP is about content plus data. So actually, it needs more tooling. It's not only a place where you manage content, but it's also a place where you manage data. And the centerpiece of a DXP is still the content management system. And there's some extra parts. If you look, okay, it needs to be scalable. It's easy for marketeers, productivity tooling for developers. All these things we got a good offering in the market. But what you also need is deep insights about your visitors and your clients. You need to be able to see what they are doing with the content, and then use that on your different channels. So what is an open DXP? And it's not just a new word for selling CMS, as I just explained. DXP is much more than that. It's a content management part that works together with customer data platform and the marketing automation. Now, if you want to know more, there's a lot of blog posts on our website, dropsolid.io. What is a digital experience platform? Why do you need one? Why should it be open? I'm not going to go too deep into that. You can find this. I will share the presentation afterwards, so you can get all the links. But why is Drupal such a strong component for the DXP? Well, actually, Drupal has been pretty visionary when it comes to becoming the centerpiece of a DXP. Even 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, when Drupal 8 was envisioned, it was already envisioned for becoming a digital experience platform. So why is that? Because the content and the data modeling is built into Drupal. Like you have this really granular system with the entities and the fields, and it's been built on an API first basis. It's using a really strong framework, Symfony. And I think this was a great move, moving from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 and incorporating Symfony, because this actually also made Drupal survive a big trend in the market. Like one of the key things Drupal is always doing is absorbing great frameworks and technologies. And I think it's just a really great system to join data with the content. And then it also has a lot of modules out of the box, which can integrate with the other components of the DXP. Now, I mentioned earlier, projects grow. And I've been in the business now for almost 10 years in the project business and 5 years in the platform business. If we look at sites like regular projects, 100K site 5 years ago, like easily becomes like a 300K site now. And that's not only because of inflation. It's just it actually and the bigger projects, the 300K CMS sites become 1 million euro DXP investments, where Drupal is the backbone of that DXP. So yes, while the install base is actually declining, the projects that are being built on Drupal is increasing. And if we could visualize that data, I know we can't, but if we could do that and see how many euros are flowing into projects that are building with Drupal over the entire install base, I think that number would be increasing, because a lot of Drupal 7 sites, and we as Dropsolid, especially in the early years when we were a small company, we built hundreds of Drupal 7 sites for small businesses as well, like 3 to 5 to 10, 20K websites. These sites are not being rebuilt in Drupal. And they are declining, but like one big site, one big DXP site replaces like 50 to 100 of these smaller Drupal websites, which you see declining in the install base. And if you would count that, then you would see that the ecosystem is very much alive. Because what does matter? You can run a business model on 1,000 customers paying 10 euros a month, or you can make the same amount of money with 10 customers paying $1,000 a month. What is better? There is no better. It's just a choice, and I think Drupal actually chose to be in more in the company B business model and aim a bit higher in the market. I don't think it's a bad thing. Although I think we need to still be relevant for maybe not for the $10 a month, but still for the $100 and the $200, if you know what I mean. Another big trend that we saw coming in is the composable trend. Yes, so composable IT architecture. It means that all the software components, all the applications being used in the enterprise architecture need to be replaceable. They need to be certain building blocks. So an IT landscape is able to evolve and to stay future-proof. So Drupal is more and more embedded in these enterprise architectures at companies where it needs to work with other applications. And this across many different contexts in the company. So this brings us to the stability. Stability in the Drupal project, I think it's actually good that we know when the next release is coming out, and we also know what is going to change, and that it's not breaking the APIs anymore, and that the module ecosystem is stable. Well, Drupal, after 20 years, it became just a stable application, a stable software package, and I think it's good, because if you are building bigger projects on it, and a lot of companies use Drupal because they run business critical operations on this, we need to have a mature projects. There might be more younger and cooler technologies in the eyes of some developers and people who start new projects, but in the end, stability is also a factor that we need to count in. Then there's a new trend on the horizon. Well, it's not a new trend, it's been going on for a couple of years now. It's called MAG. And there's even an alliance around this where companies can join to prove that they are really MAG, distinguish themselves from other software platform. It's mostly for proprietary systems that are on there. I think there's no open source project on this, but it proves that it definitely is a market trend. And what does MAG mean? So the M for MAG stands for microservices. So small pieces of functionality that are being joined together, deployed separately, independently, and managed. API, the A stands for API first. The C stands for cloud native. So it means that it just works in the cloud, it scales, you can update it automatically. And the H stands for headless, so that the front-end presentation is decoupled from the back-end. If you want to read more, there's also a blog post on our blog about these concepts. But how does Drupal and MAG compare to each other? So if we look at this, we're gonna check them out. Like, is it MAG or no MAG, or Drupal and MAG? It's not that your application, if it's not going with these trends, that it's bad or anything. In itself, the MAG is not really generating value. It's how you deploy it. It's how you use it, how you get return on investment from it. So there needs to be a business case for it to do it. But in any case, let's see how Drupal stacks up. So sometimes Drupal gets the comments that it's a monolith, but if I look at Drupal, especially after maybe Drupal 7 could be considered like a monolith, but once past Drupal 8 with Composer, that's not a monolith anymore. We actually are capable of bringing in small pieces of functionality and manage this. And actually, the whole module system could also be considered as composability. There's more than 40,000 modules. There's also something which Drupal does very well. It manages all these dependencies. It manages all these components to seamlessly work together in a CMS, because imagine that you have a microservice for every functionality Drupal is offering. You could pretty easily find yourself in a microservices hell. Yeah, there's a blog post. I think it was written by the creators of GitLab, who use Ruby on Rails, and why they didn't leave Ruby on Rails because of the whole microservices argument. They said, like, maybe monoliths are called a big ball of mud, but microservice can become even something worse, like a big distributed ball of mud. I think Drupal manages this really well, because it just strikes a balance between going extreme microservice, where you have to manage everything yourself, and the monolith, where you have one package and one solid block that you cannot adapt and evolve. I think with Composer and the modules, were pretty much extracting all the value you can extract from being microservices, so you can still evolve. And obviously, we also have the automatic updates for Drupal coming up. So a lot of these things needs to be managed. And I think it's good that Drupal is a package that brings it all together. It has value to bring it in a package. Then the API first. In Drupal, most data structures are exposed. You have the JSON and GraphQL, but not everything is exposed. But maybe not everything needs to be exposed. Maybe just the most important parts of your application to fetch the content and the configuration is needed. Also, the API initiative is also more than 10 years old. It's baked into the core. And also there, why do you want to be API first? Because you want to retrieve data, content, configuration very easily. And if you can do that, then your goal is achieved. Not everything needs to be fetchable by an API. And once again, I think Drupal does a good job to bring that together. If we look at cloud, okay, you can argue Drupal is not cloud native. It's not born in the cloud. The cloud didn't exist back then. But companies like Acquia, Pantheon, Platform, Dropsolid help you run Drupal in the cloud. So I think there are enough solutions to manage this, to make it auto-scaling, to do all these things. And the fact that Drupal is open and not baked into the cloud, locked into the cloud, means that you can still run it on your own premise, which is a big advantage for a lot of customers, that you can still use Drupal in a private, in a data sovereign context, which means that if you want to run it in the cloud, you can do it, but if you don't want to do it, you can also do it. You're not cloud locked in. And then the headless in itself also, it's also not a selling point, because you can build a headless website and have a back end and a front end, and then you have to maintain 2 applications. So in some contexts, when you want to go multi-channel, for example, and to improve the customer experience of certain parts of your application, it can be a great return on investment. Also, if you have large teams of developers working on both ends, it can separate concerns a little bit. To be headless, to be relevant, no, it has to be a business case. It has to have a business case. And in Drupal, well, I think Drupal is doing pretty well in the headless space as well. And there's a lot of contributions came out the last year. I think one of the most significant, interesting contributions is the Next.js for Drupal from chapter 3, which is a US company. And they've built a starter kit. We've been leveraging the starter kit also in Dropsolid's install profile, rocket ship distribution. It's also on Drupal.org to get us an advantage into getting to a headless website more quickly, and also integrated with Layout Builder, so that out of the box you can just drag and drop with Layout Builder, and it will work in your JavaScript front end. We'll probably release this somewhere this year, when we have it on a couple of sites, and it's a bit battle tested, so it's worthy to put it out there. Yes, there's also a video that I made. Maybe Matthew, you can take over, because we tested it and it didn't
I'll
work.
go ahead and share.
Yeah, please.
Everyone seeing this as well?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Analytical approach. These days, when you want to select a CMS or a DXP, you have a choice between microservices and the monolithical approach. The monolithical approach, as you can see, is very easy to put together, but it's not so flexible if you want to modify it. On the other hand, microservices gives you a lot of flexibility, but it's not so easy to manage it all. You have to make a lot of choices yourself and maintain it. On the other hand, that's where Drupal comes in. It strikes the balance between those two extremes. It starts from a flexible form, which can be extended by site builders, backend developers. They can add module, configure it. They can write code with the Symfony framework. If you want to integrate it with other technology, other marketing technology, like for example with marketing automation, to give a robot an extra boost, extend it with a CDP, a customer data platform, computer, where marketeers can check everything that happens for our customer journey. And Drupal is also very capable of being headless out of the box. So here, we're ready for the launch of our rockets. Wow. Now, let's say something is changing in the business. Okay, we want to add an extra feature, no problem. We can do that. Add this extra feature, we add an extra module, or we make an extra integration, and okay, it's pretty easy. Off we go. Huh? You can see all these things, a lot of choices have already been made. Not as much as in the monolith, so it's not flexible anymore, but also not here where you have to do everything yourself. And this will also take a lot of time. So Drupal strikes the balance between those two extremes.
There you go, Dominique, off to you.
Right, thank you. I'll reshare my screen. So yes. So yeah.
You have that rocket in the Dropsolid offices?
No, no, I I don't have it here, no.
Oh, that's too bad. What happened to it? Maybe you could have auctioned it off or something. It's kind of famous now.
I think I disassembled it.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's back in its box, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll let you continue. Thanks.
Yeah. So no. So to conclude this, if you want to go mag or not mag, so that's not a real question. It's just how are you going to get value from it? And the conclusion is that a lot of organizations are not ready to innovate like a startup. Like a lot of organizations, like most of our customers, don't want to go fast and break things. They want to actually build a solid platform and make sure it stays that way. So Drupal brought these things together. I think like it still maintained that flexibility to adopt new trends, to bringing new stuff, like all the underlying framework, like really difficult things like moving from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. Like I think it was a tremendous move of the community. It's still it's a complete rebuild of the platform, and it adopted a lot of these trends that you see now play out. So and I think if we have to compete in the market with new SaaS platforms which do lock you into the cloud, and which might be headless and leverage microservices, etc., they come with a big trade-off. Like if it's, I've seen stacks like customers completely locked into certain stacks where I know if I would have chosen Drupal, they wouldn't have been locked in like they would. And a lot of buzzwords, like especially the microservices and the API first, are getting used to sell things in the market, but Drupal is not marketing itself this way, but it can really come up against these platforms and actually be the better, because it not only adopted these trends, but it also did it in a way that the implementations stay stable and relevant. Yeah. And to conclude is, I think Drupal really struck the balance between drawing value from this and just going with the trend. So how do we see that the future of contribution going in Drupal? Like, actually, this is also from the slides that were shared in DrupalCon. You actually see the number of individuals contributing going down a little bit. But on the other hand, you see the number of organizations going up. And what I think is happening is there's more senior engineers in the community. And there's also more sponsored contribution by companies. So it will become maybe a little bit less spontaneous, but it will become more professional. So as a company, if you can now double down on Drupal, you will be with one of the company and really do it good, then you will be with the companies who really are capable of attracting the talent and the right customers, and it will differentiate you from other companies in the market. So I think being a Drupal-based company will actually make you more valuable because of these trends that are playing out. Although there is a lot of competition in the CMS market, I see the strengths of Drupal still need to really shine through, but they are definitely there. They're not marketed as well as they could, I think, but they are definitely there. Now, what are the challenges? Companies building and using Drupal should showcase their impact. So as I told, it's like I think we should get it off Drupal.org, the install base, or like not make it like the main thing, but make the main thing the impact that we are creating with Drupal. Like, the biggest sites are being built with Drupal, but also a lot of enterprises are building with Drupal, because in the long run, it's still total cost of ownership wise and future proof wise a really good platform. And more is not always the indicator of better. And what we see now, and I think we will see it with the whole headless trend as well, with as we did with Symfony when Drupal 8 came out. I think in Drupal 10 and 11 and plus, we will see more and more of the JavaScript coming into Drupal, and also these communities will be attracted to Drupal. We see here at Dropsolid, we're starting more and more projects where Drupal and JavaScript is being combined, and you just see that it's been done in a Drupal way, where we reuse the components, and if we get to a point where we can make the side building of Drupal out of the box work with the front-end capabilities of the JavaScript, we'll have such a powerful combination there that it will be really difficult for proprietary CMSs to compete with Drupal. So the conclusion: why Drupal is a shark and not a dinosaur. I think it's after this talk, it should be clear that it's absorbed every new trend, every trend that is playing out currently. It's adopted. It's mature tech, but even though it's really mature, it still kept its evolution power going on. So it will not be surprised like the dinosaurs by an extinction event, like many of them have already occurred. Just a couple of weeks ago, I saw that a couple of months ago, when the whole AI trend started to start, it only took like a couple of weeks to get the modules out that are integrating Drupal with these new tools. So I think that just shows how quickly it's adapting. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, I guess I have one. You mentioned that Drupal also helps with marketing. How does it exactly helps with marketing? Like what's the role that Drupal plays for marketing?
The role that Drupal plays for marketing departments, like how a customer uses this in his marketing. Is that your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, the most users of Drupal are actually marketeers, like content marketeers. So they use Drupal pretty extensively to build landing pages, to get their content out there, writing content in Google, distributing it through different channels. So yeah, I think here at our company, I think are two marketeers who do all the marketing for Dropsolid. They use the CMS the most, and I see this with a lot of our customers as well, especially the customers like who have media teams, like content publishers. They use it quite a lot, and they use it in combination with other tools, like for example with Mautic, with marketing automation. They would build emails based from content in Drupal, pull that into Mautic, and then send emails. So yeah, the marketeers of organizations are actually the power users of Drupal.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense.
Dominic, I wanted to ask if you had any experience yet applying and integrating ChatGPT or other AI into Drupal yet.
We haven't had any customer that has asked us. We also didn't went proactively to one of our customers to integrate it, but I thought it was just like something that showed me how quickly it becomes available. If you just search ChatGPT in the Google modules, I think you get like 5 modules that are building on top of that.
Yeah. Villier, which I don't really know those guys directly, but there's been a lot of coverage. And then specifically, they've integrated it into CK Editor, just some content assistance, content generation assistance. And then I think they did another approach was scanning for SEO, content, and then scanning the content for SEO suggestions, etc. So anyway, I was just curious because I appreciated the talk, and Esteemed is following all of the mock principles and building our talent experience platform on top of Drupal at this time with Vue.js, and our JavaScript developers on the call, I see, which is nice. And just now we're beginning to explore the employment of AI in the headless implementation as well as on the back end in Drupal. So it'll be, on both sides, assisting both the administrators, which in this case is a recruitment staff, and also the users of the talent experience platform themselves, right? Whether that's to capture data from a text document, make parsing easier, to altering job descriptions and such for specific opportunities. So just, anything that a language model could be useful for even just the 3.5 version seems to be accessible. So it's exciting to see the Drupal community jump on it so much, and being naturally, its strength is content management. Having this there to help with the content generation is, a nice fit, I would say.
To hear that you're already building it into your product.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I mean, it's a productivity booster. I'm in somewhere in the realm of 5 to 8 times for our work, particularly.
All right.
A lot of writing and content and resumes and, all that bit. So yeah, very cool. We're excited about it. And excited about all that you have mentioned about Drupal and its adaptability, and journey, to that place today. And then actually I hadn't seen that implementation of Next from chapter 3. So that was cool to learn about that as well. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm curious to know about so the talent management platform you're talking about. It's like the main user is the HR employee.
No, the main user is it's a community product.
Okay.
Right. So basically, an implementation of that could be Facebook for Workplace or Google Currents, something like that. So it merges social, LMS, and CMS, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it's, normally it's, of course, dedicated to an employer. LinkedIn could be an example, of a TXP that is public. And that is what ours will be for our colleagues community, basically to replace, just an open Slack as we have today, and, have the profile and the learning events and the social abilities and all of that integrated into one thing. And then, yes, the HR staff can be, is connected on the back end to be able to assist with opportunities and connection with that. And that is also the main definition of a TXP, is that it's helping to put the career journey and sort of navigating employment and options in the future into the user's hand, into the employee's hand, rather than in HR's hand, which it traditionally was in the past, where they said, hey, we think you'd be good for this job. Rather than that, they publish it to a job board, as we saw those trends developed in the last 25 years. And now this is moving internal to organizations, and then tracking the mobility and having AI help with matching and analyzing a profile and saying, hey, we know you play soccer on the weekends, we've got this opportunity. We know you have other interests in robotics or something, and we've got this opportunity here. So, it helps to develop a career path over time that may be much more rich than it ever was in the past. And so this is out there with a couple of large companies, or companies that have risen since around the time about 2018. One's called Fuel 50, and they have accrued quite a few Fortune 500 clients that adapted this type of thing. And then from here, right, that's really a front end application that leads to HCM, human capital management systems, of all kinds on the HR back end, because effectively this is the front end of the employee experience. And here back, we're managing, we're paying, we're, doing all those administrative tasks and operations tasks in the other systems. But having them connected in one way or another, through various middleware and, such, adds up to that ecosystem.
All right. So it's pretty deep woven into organizations then, I assume.
It is. But we noticed that there was nothing like that for the digital independent. So we thought, well, let's build a product out of Drupal with, a flexible front end, and then take that first, contribute that back to the community, and then also take that forward in a manner such as Mint, or a headless proprietary application that's using Drupal on the back end.
Okay.
So we're going to take it forward to enterprise marketing as well. That's just using it for ourselves, but we're the guinea pigs so far, so it'll be fun.
All right. Great.
I also have one thing in my mind. Actually, so in Drupal, the authoring experience is not that great. So initially, when the client is like, okay, Drupal will use Drupal and all of the benefits it provides, they are happy with it. But once the product is launched and the system is reaches in the hands of the content authors or the content creators, they are usually not so happy with the experience they are getting. Like they are creating the page in the back end and how it's going to look at the front end, like they'll have to create it, then only they can see it usually. And like and at that time usually they need some special Drupal specific training or something like that. And if we compare it with other CMSs, for example, maybe AEM, it's like they are on the page, drag and drop the components, create the page. So usually like they are familiar with this type of content authoring, not the one which Drupal provides out of the box, or maybe with layout builder to some extent, but that is still not like that that extensive or something like that. So how do you like feel about it in general? Because at that time, yeah, they usually say, oh, initially they resist a little bit to adapt to it. And yeah.
Yes, you're right. Out of the box, it's not there's better experiences, that's for sure. But I think, and that's one of the things that we see here also, when we use our install profile, it's called the Dropsolid rocket ship. You can download this from Drupal.org, so you can definitely check this out. And what we did there is that we installed Layout Builder and we pre-configured it, and which means that it's a much better experience than it's out of the box. We also try to contribute this back through the install profile. Our team also tried to get stuff back to the core. I'm not quite sure how far they gotten with it, but in the install profile we use it and we create a better experience. And I must say, or maybe I can just show it to you, because sometimes I use it myself and I don't think it's pretty bad. I'll just show you. I'll log into our own website here. And what the team did is, yeah, let's take the home page. And if we manage the content, like you can see that Layout Builder has been implemented here. So you can actually drag and drop certain blocks through the page. If you want to go and search for new blocks in the website, yeah, they get like these pre-configured, pre-themed components to build pages with. So that's also actually what we deliver to our customers, to the content managers, and they're pretty happy with this. Like, for example, like, okay, it takes some work to get the components themed, but once the components are there and we reuse it in many projects, you can just like really build beautiful pages. And what we actually do is we kind of limit the capabilities of the customer a little bit. Yeah, because out of the box, Drupal has so many buttons to click on and so many configurations that the customer easily can break the website or make it look bad. And so we have the components, we limit the capabilities a little bit, and then we see that the customer even make it work with, like, for example, the headless front end, which we are currently working on. I think that would be even better. But yeah, making it a little bit, Drupal actually has too much capability.
Yeah.
So if you look at these SaaS CMSs, and I really encourage you to maybe get a demo from Storyblock or whatever, like there's many of them. You see, they really focus on making a really great auditor experience, but what they actually done is like limit the possibilities of the customer. Yeah.
Yeah, this is nice. Can we like try it out? Is it already like contributed or something, or?
I know there is actually a lot contributed in the Rocket Ship, Dropsolid Rocket Ship distribution on Drupal. If you type it in Rocket Ship on Drupal.org, you will see it. And most of the modules have been contributed. It's not like what you see now is an implementation of that distribution. So it gives you a head start. But you still have to do the teaming of the components yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you also tried the Gutenberg editor with Drupal?
I haven't tried it myself, but I don't know if you have any projects with it. You have experience with it?
Yeah, I just recently got to know about this. So I got to know that it's basically a WordPress plugin, which later on we worked on, and like someone worked on and created a module for Drupal. But it's pretty amazing the way it allows editors to add content on the page itself, and it's properly themed there. So usually what editors use is WYSIWYG, the CK editor, right? But there either we add markup, or there are some elements that we can add and we can see how it's going to look exactly when we are adding it. But Gutenberg is quite cool editor. So when I was going through the repository, I got to know the first session that happened on this module was back in 2018. So I was just wondering, why is it not famous enough? Why people are not working on it if it's providing such a great experience? I was just wondering why it's not so famous. It's famous in WordPress for sure. It's one of the biggest module for WordPress. Just wondering why it hasn't reached there for Drupal.
Okay, yeah. I think I might know the answer to that. I'm not 100% sure if it's the correct answer, but I think the Gutenberg plugin is actually not using the field system in Drupal. So it's like you have the body field where you can then use, in fact, the Gutenberg system on it and do a lot of things, but the content you build with it is not structured like you would have it in fields.
Oh, okay. So, like, yeah, I haven't worked much on it, but from all I've seen, I understood that we can have multiple paragraphs, and on a page we can add different blocks using the paragraphs. So yeah, you could be right. I haven't worked much on it. I was just exploring it yesterday.
I think that's the reason why it's not being used as extensively, because in WordPress they do have also a similar field type way of working, but it's not like the entity system in Drupal. Like that, yeah. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look it up myself, but I think it has to do with being with there that the it's just like a field of content. And yeah, you can build different blocks, but it's still in one. Like for example, if you would want to query like a small piece of it with an API, for example, that would be really difficult, I imagine then.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a good point. That could be true.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about the discovery or the POC that you talked about? I think the layout builder with headless Drupal. So what exactly are you trying to get out of it? Or
Yeah,
what
so what we are trying to leverage is what chapter 3 has contributed. So they have a starter kit. And then if you change something in the layout builder, like you change your layout, that it also gets reflected into the JavaScript application. Like most JavaScript applications, they just fetch the content and they put it in a certain place and render it. And that's the difficulty now, I think, with building headless Drupal websites, is that if you put a front end in front of Drupal, yeah, and you don't connect it through the different subsystems of Drupal, you lose actually a lot of the capabilities of Drupal as a site building tool. Like it doesn't automatically change in your JavaScript front end if you do something in your Drupal backend. Okay, if you change your content, that's easy. Fetching content from your JavaScript application to your from your Drupal site to your JavaScript application, that's pretty easy, and most of the CMSs are quite capable of doing that. But also fetching all the configuration Drupal is providing because of the powerful site building, and have it automatically work in your JavaScript front end. Actually, that's not there for every module in Drupal at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. But see, when we talk about headless Drupal, we have two instances. One is backend and one is front end, right?
Mhm.
So even if, let's say, in headless Drupal, if I want to use layout builder, that would mean that in my Drupal backend instance, I would need to have all of my JavaScript code. Let's say for headless, if I'm using React, then what is the benefit of having two separate instances for backend and front end when we want both the things on both the instances? I'm just thinking about it, and I was also thinking, like, I have been thinking about it, but I'm not able to understand, if we have two separate instances, how are we going to kind of have all the data on both the instances? If so, to use layout builder, I need to have that React. Let's say if I'm working with React, I need to have that React component on my Drupal backend instance, right? Which does not happen as of today. And if we need it, then there is progressive decoupled Drupal, not the complete headless. There are progressive decoupled as well, where we have only one instance and we inject our React components in the Drupal site itself.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah. It's as you say, like out of the box. What? But if I understand, your question is why have two separate systems?
Yeah, like why have two separate instances when we are now what we are trying to achieve is having the some of the front end layer available in the backend, and we want to utilize some of the backend sub modules functionality, like you mentioned, be it layout builder and the changes that we are doing in backend, we want it to reflect on front end. So to get something from backend to front end, we can still utilize API, but to get something from front end to backend, we'll still have to. It's like we are trying to get both things on both the instances. Then why to have two instances at first place?
That's a good question. I think obviously to create if you want to create a separation of concerns between the backend developers and the front-end developers, that's one thing. If you want to go multi-channel, where you have multiple channels, and maybe one channel is listening to the backend configuration-wise. Another way I think about it sometimes, it's not like this at the moment, but sometimes I think like maybe the team layer in Drupal in the future could become a lot smarter if it would be a JavaScript based team layer and not just a tweak HTML CSS based team layer. You know what I'm trying to convey?
Yeah, maybe like Storybook or Pattern Lab.
I'm not familiar with Storybook.
Or Pattern Lab, maybe?
No.
So Storybook and Pattern Lab allows you to create a style guide. You can have a React-based template that we will later on integrate with Drupal. So I can use the complete style guide in any other project as well. It won't be completely coupled with Drupal, and we can have it as a separate project. I can use it with React or any other technology. And that way I'll have a style guide as well as a theming layer separate. So that would mean that at the same time, the front-end developer does not have to be dependent on the back-end developer. I can create my patterns, my atoms, and all the designs that a front-end developer has in hand. I can create a static markup, pass data through YAML or some JSON file, theme it, and the style guide would be ready for client to review. And at the same time, backend person can work on the Drupal site building and custom module development. And once it's done, we'll integrate Storybook with Drupal and we'll pass the data through Drupal.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're doing. Yeah, but it would even go a step further. If you look at the theming layer of Drupal, it actually contains a lot of business logic. Like, for example, if you would render stuff out of the views module, for example, it comes with a lot of template files. It comes with a lot of logic in the template files. What would happen is that that same logic would become available in the React application, like in the React theming layer.
Yeah, I think so. Ideally, what happens is we create a kind of template in React, and then we integrate that template inside the Drupal template. So if inside views template, if some calculation is going on, I'll let the calculation get done, and I'll take the result and I'll pass that result as a variable through a variable in the React template. So I won't
For
be,
example.
so yeah, so that would be completely like pure Drupal project. So this time I'm not talking about headless or any decoupled Drupal project. This would be pure Drupal project. It's just that the front end layer would be completely independent of the backend layer. And maybe once we are done with the backend, we can just integrate both. So that would mean a backend developer and a front end developer can work simultaneously.
Exactly. But that's the future. At the moment, it's most projects are not built like this.
Yeah, actually, in my organization, all of our projects are we are using Storybook, and that has been helping us great.
Okay.
Maybe I can also
Okay.
add one more point to like why not this kind of architecture where Drupal and front end lies on the same table, and why decoupled. Actually, it's not only about the developers independence or things like that. It's also about, for example, how much interaction on your site does actually is with, for example, database. If there is nothing much, then the front end layer can lie independently. It will be much more faster, and it will be like, and your Drupal infrastructure will also not have to support all the load and all of the like anything, and the infrastructure will also not be needed so much for Drupal at least, and all of the components like database and other things lying along with Drupal. Only the front end will need to be scaled and everything. So that is also then. The other thing is sometimes, the, for example, if there is a need for SPA applications, single page applications, Drupal is not like very well with SPA. So I mean, there are like other reasons why to decouple and why not to. And I also worked on a project actually where it was like fully decoupled. Still, they wanted the same experience in Drupal. So at that time, it was like long back. Layout Builder was not in core and it was not stable. Also, there was panels and panels IP at that time that was popular enough. Panels in place editor. So we also used like panels in place editor, and the front end application was in React. So the front end applications code that was hosted on an internal URL to make that as a CDN available to Drupal. And we just ingested that and then painted the components of React in Drupal with panels IP, block, layout, as you just showed. So because they wanted the experience like that only, they wanted everything on the page itself, and but the application in itself was in React, and that was a fully decoupled. Because, and the other reason there was also like they wanted Drupal only as a CMS, not that was a big commerce application. So they were using another system as commerce application, and they were using a third system where if they are creating registries and all of the things where user interaction will happen and the information will go into the database. So they used a third application for databases only, a Java based application for commerce, and front end was in React. Drupal was only SCMS, then microservices. And also they were like, we don't want to invest so much on Drupal hosting and everything. So they cached entire Drupal APIs data. Even if Drupal is down for days, nothing will happen.
Okay.
It was
Like an interesting stack.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was very interesting. And
Yeah.
there were like so many technology stacks, so many things. So there are different reasons to decouple always, and it's not a small decision or something to make. But yeah, my question came from that context only. So panels IP was there, they could have just like, yeah, they were created, but still they were not so happy because they were using another CMS and the authoring experience was so seamless there. Like we still want better authoring experience. So it was like that.
So you built it custom then?
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was started, I guess, in very early versions of Drupal or 7. I think in 8 they started, but still layout builder was not in core or not popular. Panels was the only thing popular at that time.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. There's more reasons to do decoupled for all kinds of reasons. that's where we have the solution architects making those decisions. All right. Thanks.
Thanks again, Dominic.
You're welcome. All right. I see that we already gotten over overtime, 15 minutes.
Yeah, so anyone who's left, thanks again for being here, and connect with Dominique on LinkedIn and check out Dropsolid. I believe Andre put the link to Dropsolid rocket ship in the chat as well, so you can all check that out. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with Dominic and working with him, working in Drupal, and I gotta say, right, people say it's not the tech that keeps you in Drupal, but the community. So definitely excited to see some of you or more of you at the upcoming Drupal events as well. So thanks again for being here, and all of you, and we'll see you soon.
All right. See you all soon. Have a nice day, evening, night.
Yeah,
Thank
Bye
you
bye,
very much.
everyone.
thanks everyone.
Thank you.